He wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was broke and living in a van.
He put it in his wallet, carried it everywhere, for years.
And right before the date he had written on that check, Hollywood paid him exactly $10 million.
That is either the most delusional thing you have ever heard or the most powerful.
That is Jim Carrey, and that check is just the beginning.
Because the real story of Jim Carrey is not about rubber faces and comedy. It is about a man who survived things that would have destroyed most people, and then got punished by Hollywood for being too good.
Today, we are telling the full story. The van, the check, the Oster robbery, the tragedy nobody talks about, and the Paris scandal that broke the internet in 2026.
Stay until the end because the last chapter changes how you see everything that came before it.
Jim Carrey was born in 1962 in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. His father, Percy, was an accountant, a good man, a hard-working man.
And then Percy lost his job, just like that.
The family went from a normal middle-class life to working as janitors at a factory in Ajax, Ontario. Jim, a teenager, was working those same factory shifts after school.
And then they lost the factory job too.
The entire family packed everything they owned into a Volkswagen van and parked it on a relative's front lawn.
Jim Carrey was 15 years old, sleeping in a van. No plan, no future. Just a kid who could not stop making people laugh.
His teachers had actually made a deal with him, 5 minutes at the end of every class, just for Jim to perform, so he would leave everyone else alone.
5 minutes. That was all it took to see that this kid was something else entirely.
He dropped out of high school, put everything into comedy. At 16, he walked onto a stage at a Toronto club and bombed completely.
The crowd did not laugh once. He walked off stage humiliated.
Most people would have quit right there.
He went back, over and over, until they laughed.
And one night, still broke and unknown, he drove up to Mulholland Drive in Los Angeles, looked out over the city lights, and wrote that check.
$10 million for acting services rendered, dated Thanksgiving 1995.
Right before that date, he found out he was getting paid exactly $10 million for Dumb and Dumber.
The check had been sitting in his wallet, falling apart for years, and it came true.
Then 1994 happened, and nothing in Hollywood was ever the same.
3 movies, 1 year. Ace Ventura in February, The Mask in July, Dumb and Dumber in December.
3 massive box office hits, back to back to back. Nobody had ever done that before.
He went from unknown to the highest paid actor on the planet almost overnight.
And Hollywood thought they had him figured out. Funny guy, rubber face, big comedies. That's Jim Carrey.
That is where they were completely wrong.
In 1998, he starred in The Truman Show, a film about a man whose entire life is a television show, and he has no idea.
Critics were in shock. This was not the guy from Ace Ventura. This was a serious, layered, devastating performance.
Golden Globe, standing ovation, a career completely redefined.
Then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind in 2004, another Golden Globe. Some people still call it one of the best films of the 21st century.
And not a single Oscar nomination, ever.
Which is one of the biggest scandals in Academy history, the most physically demanding, emotionally complex performances of his generation, and the Academy looked the other way both times.
Why? The most honest answer is that Hollywood never fully forgave him for being too funny first. Once you're the rubber face guy, the serious version of you makes people uncomfortable.
That's how the industry works, and it's not fair.
But the Oscar snub wasn't the darkest chapter, not even close.
In 2015, his girlfriend, Kathrona White, died by suicide. She was 28 years old, an Irish makeup artist who had been in and out of a relationship with Carrey for years.
Her family filed wrongful death lawsuits against him. They alleged he had provided her with prescription medications under a false name. The legal battles were brutal, public, and went on for years.
Carrey denied everything. He called the lawsuits a shakedown. The cases were eventually dismissed.
But here's what the legal outcome doesn't resolve. A young woman is dead, and the people who loved her believed Jim Carrey played a role in that.
Whether the courts agreed or not, he had to carry that, publicly, while the whole world watched.
He pulled back from everything, stopped taking major roles, got deep into painting, not as a hobby, as a serious artistic obsession.
Dark, political, surreal paintings that went viral on their own, a man processing something enormous in the only language he had left.
In 2022, he told an interviewer he was thinking about retiring. Done. Finished. Goodbye, Hollywood.
And people believed him, because after everything, it made sense.
And then in 2025, he came back for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and reminded everyone exactly why they missed him.
And then came February 26, 2026, the night that broke the internet.
Jim Carrey was invited to the César Awards in Paris, the French Oscars, a Lifetime Achievement Award, the same honor given to Julia Roberts the year before.
He'd been planning the trip for 8 months. He worked with the ceremony organizers to prepare his acceptance speech entirely in French. He practiced specific words over and over.
He brought his girlfriend, his daughter, his grandson, and 12 close friends. His director, Michel Gondry, who made Eternal Sunshine with him, was there.
He gave the speech in French with a thick American accent, and the entire room of French cinema legends gave him a standing ovation.
He talked about his ancestor, Marc-François Carré, born in Saint-Malo, France, 300 years ago. He paid tribute to his father. He cried.
That sounds like a beautiful night. And then the photos hit the internet.
People said he was unrecognizable. His face looked completely different, fuller, smoother somehow.
Comments were saying things like, "That's not Jim Carrey. Who is this person?"
And then a drag artist named Alexis Stone posted a photo of himself dressed as Jim Carrey, prosthetics, wig, fake teeth, and captioned it, "Alexis Stone as Jim Carrey in Paris."
The internet went absolutely insane. Millions of views. News outlets ran with it as if it was a real story.
People were genuinely convinced that Jim Carrey had sent a body double to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award at one of the most prestigious film ceremonies in the world.
Snopes investigated. No evidence that Alexis Stone was anywhere near Paris. The photos Stone used were verified Getty images from the actual ceremony.
The César Awards released a full statement, confirmed he attended with his entire family, confirmed it was Jim Carrey, full stop.
A celebrity surgeon also stepped in and pointed out that natural aging, combined with possible cosmetic work, can change someone's appearance significantly over 20 years, that the online commentary was mean and completely unfair.
And Jim Carrey himself? According to people close to him, he wasn't upset about the comments on his appearance.
He was upset that people actually believed he had sent a fake to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award at one of the most prestigious film ceremonies in the world.
On the red carpet, when reporters tried to get a comment, he looked straight at them, said, "I'll be back," and walked right past them, into the venue.
64 years old and still the most interesting person in any room.
So here's the question this story leaves us with. Jim Carrey slept in a van at 15, manifested $10 million into existence with a handwritten check, became the highest-paid actor on Earth, proved he was a serious dramatic artist, got robbed of the recognition he deserved, survived personal tragedy in the most public way possible, walked away from Hollywood on his own terms.
And when he came back to accept the honor of his career, in Paris, in French, with his family watching, the internet spent 3 days debating whether his face looked different.
That's not just a story about Jim Carrey. That's a story about what we do to people when they are no longer useful to us in the way we want them to be.
So I want to know what you think. Is Jim Carrey one of the most underrated talents in Hollywood history? Or do the unanswered questions about Kathrona White mean his legacy is more complicated than the highlights suggest?
Leave your answer in the comments because that's a conversation worth having.
Subscribe to the channel. Every week we tell the real stories in real English. No textbooks, no grammar exercises, just stories that make you think.
See you next episode.